Welcome everyone to another Black Desert video. So today I wanted to give my take on gear progression for life skillers from beginner to endgame. Now this one is a little bit different because unlike normal gear, there's a few different routes you can go and overall more choices for all the different life skills. So I'll be doing a video on normal gear later, but that one takes a little bit more time, whereas life skill ones is, I wouldn't say easier, it's just a little bit more condensed and it's, you know, easier to talk about. But so for beginners, I assume a majority of people either come from grinding and you're like, oh, I want to try life skilling out, or people who are just completely new and are like, oh, I like life skilling, but I don't know where to start. So I wanted to talk about this, assuming you are, you know, not guru, let's say, you know, entry level life skills, and you don't have any gear. So where do you start? What I would do at beginner one and low levels, let's say you don't have too much of an investment into any gear, is let's talk about, let me take off all of the gear so we could just show you this as one thing. I guess weapons don't exactly matter. So the first thing I would do is buy Loggia gear, because back in the day when we first started the game, we had to use all these magic tools and like the random vendor stuff that you get nowadays. So like these things, that's what we had to do. Nowadays, this is considered early on decent just because you don't have to invest too much into it and you just get them from rewards, or you could buy various tools from the vendor. However, nowadays, I would say most people should start with Loggia. And you're like, oh, what do I want to do? What kind of life skill should I pick? The first thing I would choose is, first of all, look at all the life skills, narrow it down to one thing at a time, and then start doing that one. If you do everything at once, all your life skills are going to be like, you know, beginner all the way up to like some weird number. So it's better to focus on one at a time and start progressing all of them, you know, gradually, versus doing like going up to like Guru 1 for gathering, then fishing to Guru. So it's kind of like one of those things where you learn one thing, add another step into it, and then keep going, because all life skills are more or less connected in a way. And I have a video talking about all the different life skills and which ones are the most profitable, so check that one out in the description. So first of all, you have Loggia gear, right? And then you could buy this from the vendor. And I believe if it's not at your standard shop, it will be at the Loggia farm. So let me just double check first. Okay, it is not here. So it'll be over here. Now the Loggia farm, there's an NPC that just sells them. Or you could buy it off the central market for various Loggia things if you don't feel like enhancing it yourself. Because that is the entry level gear that you should be going for. You should, let's say you have, you know, your first tool or something, and or armors. Let's just put this on. So let's say you have your armors done and then you got your first life skill tool. What you should do next is basically keep life skilling until you could save up for Manos gear, because when you look at different gear pieces, let me show you, I guess. Is it functional? Is it under there? You're going to see a lot of things like silver embroidered, Loggia, blue gear. Blue gear, I feel like, is a beginner trap. Simply because unless you can buy a pen directly off the market, it is not really worth enhancing, because it's just going to cost you more to enhance it versus, you know, just straight up buying a Manos, and that is not a dead end upgrade. And Manos is considered best in slot up to Preonne, which is the newer one. So yeah, there's a lot of choices. There's a lot of different ones. Admittedly, people are going to get confused. So that's why I tell people to work on one piece at a time and find a life skill or two you enjoy. Just do those and then add them gradually. So let's say you enjoy gathering, right? You could go the Loggia route. I probably wouldn't recommend these anymore. It's just kind of outdated. Some of these are good, but for the most part, Loggia into Manos, and then that's where gear comes in. We'll talk about pre-owns and everything. So there are accessories that you can get as well for Loggia. However, nowadays with Manos accessories being, you know, kind of phased out towards endgame, I think realistically most people can make a couple 100 mil an hour these days, and that's at the low end, a couple 100 mil. And so if, you know, making a lot of silver is easier nowadays, it's probably best to skip the beginner stuff and go into Manos. That's why you go from Loggia to Manos. And then once you get up to Tri and Tet, you can convert these into pre-owned, but that's another story. We'll talk about pricing. So let's say you have all the accessories, you know, pretend these are Loggia or something, you know, right? You're all good. And let's see, am I missing anything? We'll talk about all of these things. There's another Kama Sylvia quest that you do for the Caphras journal. I believe that's an adventure log. And then you get to choose between one of three, and then I believe you can just convert back and forth. So what this one does is just give additional life XP. So this one is just kind of doing adventure logs and questing over time. And then you get that one free. Just do it at your own time. And there's another thing that I think would be earlier on in gear for progression. So early on, you can get various life skill artifacts. So pick something you enjoy doing, pick a life skill. When in doubt, just get the life skill XP. But when you start specializing in things, you start getting like mastery or, you know, anything else. But as a beginner, I value XP a lot higher just because your mastery in general isn't high. So yeah, getting these artifacts are generally gotten by doing the activity. Like if you do gathering, your chances are you're going to get gathering artifacts. And then you can just put in like various crystals and everything. These are very cheap and easy to obtain. So beginner options that won't break your bank is like, you know, just kind of get whatever life skill you enjoy doing and just add some XP. As you get to the intermediate and endgame stage, that's where all the investment comes into, like get more mastery and everything. So let's just put this on, because let's pretend you have gathering accessories now. So this is what your gear should look like. Pretend this is like Manos or, you know, Loggia at your stage. So the weapons itself, they're irrelevant because your tools go into something else. So you're probably looking at this and like, oh, do I have to buy all the tools? No, you want to get them all eventually. But your goal is to find a few life skills that you enjoy doing. And even if you're doing like alchemy or cooking, there's a different tool for that one. So when I say specializing in that one, it's a lot cheaper than buying everything at once and doing everything. It'll just confuse you. And so in my video, I talk about all the different life skills and which tools you can get for gathering and everything else. So each thing is a little bit specialized for different things. So keep that in mind. But other video, we'll talk about it. So let's say you got your, you know, your gathering thing or your cooking. You have all these slots filled out. And you're probably thinking, okay, so it's time to get an Alchemy Stone. Now, there's a few options that I personally use. This one, it came from a season a while ago. I believe you can still get it, but I don't remember how. If it's not through a season reward, it's probably through a quest somewhere down and suggested. I don't remember where it is, but a while ago you could have gotten it, or you could just craft it somewhere. The Trent's tier basically gives a fat life XP, which is, I think, good. The Khan's Heart, if you do the Khan boss with your guild 3 times, this one is essentially free. It just kind of gives it to you. And this one is good at like mid to end game, simply because by just equipping it, it gives you mastery. You don't even have to use it. And so if you were to look at this one, it is slightly better than the Trent's tier in terms of stats. However, this one will give you more XP. This one will give you mastery. And the one I've been using more often is either Resplendent or the Trance tier, to be honest, because I do a lot of gathering, and so gathering item drop rate is valuable, but so is XP. So it depends on what I'm doing. So that's why, in terms of life skill gear, there's more choices in terms of Alch Stones and everything. Whereas if you're, like standard PvE, PvP gear, using like a Vel's Heart or something else, there's one or two choices. But yeah, it depends on where you're at, to be honest. Even at Endgame, I do value life XP pretty highly. But if I'm gathering, maybe I'll use Resplendent, which, this one also, they both give it. This one gives the most, obviously. But yeah, when in doubt, this one is probably the cheap option that you can just get by questing. This one you have to do like, guild activities, or you can just buy it. So let's put this on. And now is where you start focusing on expanding your life skills once your full circle is slotted. Because now that you got your basic gear and you're trying to upgrade, your goal is to expand your different life skills and maybe try something else. So obviously, throughout progression, your goal is to upgrade all your life skill gear. Admittedly, I'm still working on mine, even, just because like other gear has higher priority. But, one thing I've always recommended, whether you're a life skiller, PvPer, or just general PvE grinder, unlock the family inventory and also do the morning light to unlock the green thumb thing, just because it saves a lot of time for your gathering. But having family inventory allows you to basically store all your scrolls and stuff that you get from events and everything. So that allows you to organize all your buffs and everything. So obviously you should be buffing when you go to life skills, same with PvP and PvE. And so I think that's a good thing to organize. And another tip I can give you guys is get one of these Morko's gear bag. I believe you can get them. It's either from the night vendor or it's from the loyalty thing, or that's a Patrigo one, but I believe you can get the Morko one, without spending real money. And what this allows you to do, and this is actually a question I've gotten a lot, was how do I quick swap my gear so fast? So Morko's gear, this has all my normal gear, right? And then you see here is where I hotkeyed my Morko's bag. So if you're like a grinder, you do everything in the game, put it on a quick slot, suddenly main gear on, life skill gear on. Big tip. A lot of people put their gear on manually, no longer have to do that. And so assuming now this is where you have all your gear and your only goal is to just upgrade it, one thing I would talk about in terms of gearing priority order is I would start with the necklace first, no matter if you're Loggia, Manos, Preonne, because they still give the most accuracy, or not accuracy, mastery and life skill XP, followed by the belt. I guess the difference really isn't that much, but maybe the belt is actually better just because it gives weight, while this one just gives more of that. But either way, you want to focus on mastery more now. And then even at try level, you see how this is 105 and then 10%, right? Here is 90 because you need 2 of them. So you want to focus on the pieces that give you the most mastery first. And then, so like one of these two, necklace and belt first, followed by ring and earrings next. And they're kind of the same. They narrowed the gap more or less. And it's all about just upgrading at this point. And then after that, you just find everything else and start upgrading your things, whichever is in the cheapest order, all the way to, best in slot, which is expensive. After that is really just different food buffs. You start stacking everything. The best thing to use is seafood cron meal. And if you get the Lara's warm black tea, life skill XP is very good. Verdure drafts are always good. Elixir of flowing time, followed by Secret Book of Florins and the Giovanni Grolin's one. And I know a lot of you guys who don't life skill, you probably have a bunch of these books. And I want to say that 100 mastery, if you're using 2 of them, it's 200. Mastery is actually very valuable, especially after they increased the cap to 3,000 from 2,000. And I wouldn't just use these randomly, because every 50 mastery puts you up into a new bracket, kind of like, gear, but for life skills. And so depending on what you're doing, that actually 200 extra mastery an hour could do a lot of things. So make sure to save them until you know what you're doing and you can do things efficiently before just popping them. And if you're a beginner, I would just hold on to these, and I would just start using like Elixir of Flowing Times earlier on, or the Verdure drafts, because those are pretty cheap. I believe you get the black teas from events only, so that's another thing. And yeah, basic things I would recommend, buying one of those life skill tent buffs, popping your seafood cron meal, elixir, or a draft, and then after that is really just gear. So I know some people might ask, oh, is it worth buying those like pearl outfits? I realistically think the only one worth doing is the like auto processing from the gathering one. Cooking one is nice, but I don't think you really need it, because nowadays you can get to 1 second cooking in alchemy very easily without the outfit. Obviously, like, the outfit gives you extra XP, but the idea as the basic starting point, get your cooking in alchemy to 1 second. And you could do that very easily now just by like the cooking ladle and the Manos flask and everything, plus buffing. But yes, it does help. Do you need to spend real money on it? No, I don't think so. It's just one of those extra nice things to have. And you probably have a bunch of extra like Stella Spirit Stones from your various seasons. Start using them, because they just kind of give you these, and I'm like, oh, okay. Plus 100 mastery is very nice. Weight limit, always good. Cooking time, processing rate, always down. A bonus. And then start picking up the Alchemy Stone, whichever one you think is the best for you. And yeah, that's gear progression. So basically TLDR, go from Loggia to Manos and to Preonne, or just straight to Preonne. And make the upgrades that are cheapest for the most mastery. So before buying a piece of gear, look at the kind of stats it gives. So for example, necklace, 105 AP, but only 10 effect. And this one gives essentially the same thing, but weight up. These are slightly less, but you need 2 of them. So that means these are generally going to be a little bit more expensive, because, people need 2 of them and it's, limited supply. Whereas when you need 1, slightly cheaper. And then after that, in terms of enhancing like life tools and everything, realistically, you can get these to Tet without Cronstones. Tet to Pen, you should probably Cronstone. And in terms of like all other gear, I'm pretty sure when it comes to Preonne, you start Cronning like maybe from Pri to Duo, or maybe Duo and up, but like, these are basically all endgame cron sinks. Everything else, all the tools, clothes, everything, it's something you want to work on. And then the last thing I want to talk about is getting your crystals. So there's 2 routes you can go. Full on mastery, which if you look over here is basically 10 times 16. Or you can go full on energy and then life skill XP. So early on, I would recommend XP to people just to get everything up to like Master and Guru. That way you unlock the maximum bonuses. And then once you're at Guru or Master, then you could start slowly transitioning into Mastery, which will give you more profit. So life skill XP, faster to get to endgame and max benefits. And then Mastery is more silver profit, if that makes sense. Yeah, these are kind of 500 mil each, and then these are, well, I guess they're the same now. So I guess it depends where you're at. You could have a mix of both of them, but I would recommend hard pushing one or the other at once. So these magical crystals of infinity are really nice if you do a lot of gathering. If you like other life skills and not gathering, just replace these with, more XP or, more mastery. So I think that's actually everything in terms of gear progression. We talked about like the route you can go, find a life skill you enjoy, specialize in that one, then into artifacts and then accessories, and then the various life tools you can get, buffs, crystals, artifacts, and Lightstones. And yeah, I think that's about it. And Alchemy Stones. So that's gear progression in a nutshell. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, it's really just more mastery, cheapest amount of silver or least amount of silver, and take it one step at a time, then go to the next one and keep repeating. So it's better to always get things that, give universal mastery, like accessories, because, for example, these gatherers clothes, they give it mastery only when you're gathering. So if you do everything eventually, the accessories and universal mastery are higher priority because it allows you to get the mastery for everything. But that's about it. Just want to say thank you guys once again so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a quick like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I have a lot of upcoming videos and stuff to talk about in the game, whether you're a new player, returning player, or someone who's just looking to get better at the game. And hopefully all this helps you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace!